All righty.
Good.
Like we always like to start the podcast off, man, with this question. We're wondering, what does the idea of collaboration over competition mean or represent to you?
I mean, finding common ground to move forward. I'm that you said I'm not really an entrepreneur in the sense that my brother is. I'm somebody who works primarily in the mental health field and as a primarily around addiction. And for me, collaboration is generally involves working with people to move forward out of addiction.
That's beautiful. Um, I feel like, collaboration over competition is an idea that, I've kind of used in my life to help me become successful. But I feel like in today's times, collaboration is something we see a lot more, whether it be business, life, the
Well,
mental
sure.
health space, it's definitely grown. So kind of
It's
talking
that's
about
that's going to mean 10 different things to 10 different people.
yeah,
Not
yes.
everyone can be a billionaire.
Facts, facts. You are right about that. And kind of talking about addiction, in recovery, people, tend to lean on support systems. Can you talk about like how important collaboration is in recovery, overcoming addiction?
Sure. For we call it mutual aid. And in mutual aid, especially around alcohol. And for me, I was addicted to alcohol and cocaine. I've been in recovery. It'll be 18 years this April, so coming right around the corner. And
Congratulations.
so collaboration really means finding people who can help you take those first steps, whether it's in the rooms of 12 step, which the most well-known alcohol-focused 12-step is Alcoholics Anonymous, or a close circle of people who don't use or don't, or who can, help you move forward, whether that's family, friends. So, versus being out there, trying to compete with yourself and trying to compete with other people in terms of got to have this, got to have that, got to be out on the party scene, because Joe Blow's out there or this person's out there. And so having that support group of mutual aid is very important in recovery. As a general rule, it's tougher to do it yourself than with other people.
Yes, yes. You talk about competition and competing with ourselves sometimes. I know in addiction sometimes, we want to go through it alone. But I think bringing other people in, getting other people's perspectives, can definitely help you. I know you talked about support systems was something that was big for you. Can you identify like some of the people who were your support system? Were they family, or were they
Sure.
people that think that could help you like they could?
No, I mean, my wife and my brother Mark and my brother Jeff are, and my father's passed, but, they were my biggest support system as well as the room inside the rooms, of 12 step. So those would have been my biggest support system. I have a very small and tight circle of friends, not like when I was using, right? When everyone's your friend, at least until the cocaine and alcohol run out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have a very small circle of friends who have been my friends for decades. Uh, and that support system has been very important because they're people I know I can reach out to and talk to and aren't going to judge and are truly concerned about my well-being. I mean, I've been to a psychiatric facility twice in my life. The first one was after in 2005 after a near suicide attempt. So yeah, I mean, if I hadn't had my brothers in that summer of 2005 when I had a 45 automatic and was going to use it on myself, I'd be dead now. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yes.
Or
Hey,
the collaboration. It wasn't a collaboration I was ready for, and sometimes people aren't ready for the collaboration, right?
you are correct about that. And shout out to your support system, so we can have this conversation here today. Uh, One thing that kind of shocked me was how open that you are about your struggles. Um, you know, I feel like for as old as you are, you were kind of ahead on the as far as being in the digital age. I know you had your own show, on talk show, just very open on social media as far as when social media first came around. Uh, what allowed you to open up about your struggles, being that that you were kind of already public?
At first, it was just part of a healing process. I was opening up to allow myself to heal. We call it recovering out loud. But the longer I did it, the more I saw that by doing that, you never know who you're helping, especially with my last name. And people know anyone can go through this, whether it's addiction or depression. I still struggle with depression and take antidepressants. But and when you talk about collaboration, you can, without even know it, inspire others to collaborate about their own mental health and their own recovery, and they're going out and seeking help, and you don't
Yes.
even know that you touched them. And so that's very
Yes.
important to me.
No, I was in reading, about your journey, a former lawyer, uh, doing drugs while you were a lawyer, being in the criminal justice system, being a bail bondsman. Um, do you think that's, you know, a normal thing in the criminal justice systems for lawyers?
You'd
We're
have,
all human.
more anecdotally, it happens, right? I don't know what
Yeah.
the data is, but I mean, I know plenty of lawyers who have been to jail.
Yeah.
I know lawyers who have been to prison. I know lawyers who, I knew lawyers who have overdosed and died. Lawyers suffer from alcoholism at a rate over twice the general public, and there are many reasons for that. The general public is around 8 or 9%. Lawyers are 10 to 11%. I mean, 22%. Sorry. So that's a pretty high multiplier there, and there are a lot of reasons for that. And I was one of those stats. But yeah, I mean, lawyers can suffer like anyone, and the legal profession, we're a profession of thinkers, right? And so we tend to think maybe that we can think our way out of the problem on our own rather than getting help,
Yeah.
which
You know,
doesn't too well.
yeah. And one thing I learned in the bail bond industry, man, that, there's no stereotype. Anyone can get bonded out. Anyone can go to jail.
I mean,
Um,
lawyers get DWIs, lawyers use blow, lawyers overdose on fentanyl, from fentanyl poisoning. Lawyers suffer. Lawyers are people, right?
yeah.
Lawyers are people with,
And
with a whole background, whether it's trauma in their lives or this or that, just like anyone else.
yeah, and I think one thing that's kind of spoken about a lot, like working in the criminal justice system, you work around so much trauma, negativity, crime, whether you're defending it or bonding someone out and help them, trying to help them fight their case or gain their freedom. I think it's not talked about enough about the people who work in the industry,
You're
dealing with
all
these type of
heroes trying to help people.
yeah,
And you have to remember, too, that you have to talk about privilege. A lot of lawyers have privilege, right? In your profession, work with a lot of people who don't enjoy the privilege. Lawyers do, or I do. I have enormous privilege, and it would be disingenuous not to acknowledge that.
yeah,
But, they say addiction doesn't discriminate. They can hit anyone, but access to the resources for recovery can discriminate based on privilege, right? That matters a lot, too.
yes. So kind of stand on you being a lawyer. Can you kind of, if so, if you can't speak on it, like touch on maybe one of the craziest cases that you covered as a lawyer?
Man, it's been so long now. I mean, the quote unquote craziness was really me because I was deep entrenched in blow and alcohol, taking on cases I shouldn't take and not engaging in the ethical practice of law. But every case is different. And looking back, I couldn't think of anything that was really unique in that sense of some wild case. But I did take cases I shouldn't take just to have money. And I'm very lucky that I wasn't disbarred or, suspended.
Yeah. And kind of switching to basketball here, man. I was following your Instagram, and I see, you still go to Mavs games. Still got your Mavs hat on now. Big
So, Matt,
Mavs fan. I was wanting to get your reaction to, the big Mavericks trade that has happened between Luca and
was surprised, and uh, my wife woke me up and said Luca was, cited a guy, Brad Townsend, is a big Dallas, he does a lot for them on Dallas sports guy.
Mhm.
His Twitter account said, she says, Luca's been traded. I said, he's hacked. Go back to sleep. And it was true. And I think I mean, I'm bummed out like everyone. Time will tell what the ultimate result of the trade will be. But, I watched the game against the Lakers, and he had a triple double, and
Yeah,
I mean, I'd rather have him on the Mavs than not. But then he's gone, right? You have to move forward, and it's made it even worse that Anthony Davis ended up getting hurt really fast because
yeah,
he showed a lot in that first game, and then we've lost Gafford and
Yep, all
Therefore,
our big man.
all our big men are gone. So we don't really know what the Mavs are capable of right now. But does it really suck to see Luke on the Lakers? Sure, sure. It's
Is that
still
something you got to talk to your brother about yet?
no. I mean, he's been public that he was found out about. He found out about it just right before it happened. They kept it quiet. They kept it quiet, and I don't. Mark was public that he tried to talk. Made a phone call and tried to talk Nico out of it, and but it had already been done. What are you going to do? It's a business, right? It's a business, and as a fan, there's a sense of loss when you have a trade like that for someone who you expected to be with the team, for life. It's again from a fan standpoint, and we all view it differently. But I'm just a fan. I don't work for the Mavs, and it's basketball, right? Basketball. It's not children. It's not
At
addiction.
war.
It's
Yeah.
not war. It's not overdoses. It's basketball. So there are other things going on. And I think about it when I see his name, and when but I watch the Mavs and I want us to win. I didn't root against the Mavs last night because Luka was playing for the Lakers.
Yeah.
If it's head to head, I want Luka to go 0 for 30. Other than that, I wish him the best, right? I wish him
Yeah.
success.
And kind of staying on the topic of the Mavs, I was wondering like who's your favorite Maverick player of all time? Do you have a
Dirk
favorite?
and Dirk.
Dirk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. The one I know, I've met Dirk. I've traveled with Dirk, and I've only met Luca once. But Dirk, going back, I know Dirk, and he's just one of the class. I mean, the classiest. He's Dallas, right? He's one of the classiest human beings there is.
Any good stories about Dirk or that you
Not,
could share?
not. If I tell those stories, I'll never get another story.
No, no, I feel you on that. Oh, what about your most cherished moment as a Mavs fan?
Oh,
Any moments that stick with
being
you?
my being in Miami for the final game in
Yes.
2011. Yeah, in the parade because I got to ride in the parade car.
Yeah. I'm a LeBron fan, so that first loss in Miami, it hurt. I'm not gonna lie, it hurt.
Well, the first law we lost to Miami the first time around, but I don't think LeBron was on the team then. But that was 2006.
I mean, even with getting at Anthony Davis, I mean, do you think Dallas can get a championship here in the next few years? Do you still feel
I hope
optimistic
so.
about
I,
what you
I
got as
hope
well?
so. Everyone stays healthy, sure. Yeah, if everyone stays healthy. But I can see all the arguments, right? I can see where if you just do it from an analytics standpoint, right? You say, okay, we do this. Luka gives us this much, but we lose this much on defense. Blah blah blah. So you bring in Anthony Davis, you do this, and you make up those points that you lose from Luka, plus get a few here and a few there. So if you do it just from a strict analytic standpoint, I guess I can see. I guess I can see that,
Yeah.
but I have no idea. Only Nico knows, right?
Yes. Now, kind of switching back to addiction. I know I seen that you kind of mentioned that you were mentioned to steroids for a while.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, from the outside looking in, is addiction with steroids, is it more physical or is it more mental?
Both. It's both. Just like addiction to cocaine and alcohol is both, right? I had a lot of body image issues growing up. I was bullied severely. I was obese, and I was even physically assaulted. And so I grew up with a lot of body image issues and steroids. I just transitioned into anabolic steroids, which were, it's interesting because when I first began using them, man, back in the late 80s, they were legal. They weren't a Schedule One. They were legal with a doctor's
Very
prescription.
true.
And then I think it was 1990, 89 or 90, the Controlled Substance Act, they would change. So you can no longer get a prescription like that, right? So at first they were legal. And then I started getting them from some guy in a little paper bag from Mexico. But you know what? My body image issues, I got huge and my body image issues never changed. They were still there. It didn't matter, right? It was called addiction to beat because at the moment you start losing mass and you go off them, you get depressed. The cycle, you cycle. Uh, that's a whole other discussion, but you cycle with them and you go off them and you get depressed and then you go right back on them because, you want to get back to where you were.
Were you heavy in the gym? Any PRs?
I was
Bench
out
squats?
back when I was at my full steroid monster high. I was benching 325. I could put it up 10 times. Now I might be able to put up 245 plates, but I'm also 64 now. I was in my 30s back then.
Yeah, at least we could put up something. That's all that matters. So another question on addiction. What's from the outside looking in, what's the hardest part of recovery that people don't talk about?
Uh, Loneliness, the loneliness that can be of recovery, and the I'd say loneliness and the shame. The shame is why people don't talk about it. The stigma. We don't talk enough about stigma. People, you hear junkie and loser and let them die, especially now with fentanyl, because we don't want to invest our resources, community resources for things like naloxone and all kinds of things to revive people. And you hear there's just stupid arguments. Well, why shouldn't we why shouldn't naloxone be free, which is
Yeah.
Narcan, when, I got to pay for my diabetes medicine. One thing has nothing to do with the other, right? So there's a lot of stigma in degrading and dehumanizing people who struggle with addiction.
No, I love that, and I know in the criminal justice community, I know Narcan is something that they're pushing a lot.
Yeah. I carry
It's
it with me in my, I have it right here with me. Carry it with
awesome,
me when we travel. You never know.
awesome. And one thing I would love to see kind of you speak more to as well is to the youth, man. I work with the younger community. I've worked in, juvenile correctional facilities. Man, these young kids with the addiction, it's hitting them bad, especially with the fentanyl, the marijuana,
Yeah.
vaping. And, you know, it's tough seeing, kids go through the addiction when they're not even mentally mature, physically mature enough to process emotions and, everything they have going on in life. I would definitely love to see you speak more, to the younger audience. I feel like that they need you the most right now,
Yeah. People ask me to, I will. I go where, I was in Richmond, Virginia. I spoke at the Richmond County Jail. I spoke at the federal lockup out there.
Okay.
And then I participated some things down in the state prison here in Texas. So it just depends, right? Because a lot of times when you're speaking to youth, they're looking for people who've actually been inside, right? Which I've been to the county jail, but never been in state prison. Thank goodness, right? So it just depends.
No, I definitely I get you on that. And I'll definitely keep you in mind for that. I guess my question is for the youth, who are going through addiction. Any advice on to the youth on, how to maybe, deal with addiction, handle addiction at a young age?
It would just depend on the specific circumstances, right? I don't think it does any good. I mean, they don't want to hear platitudes and just say no from some 64-year-old dude. So it would just really depend on the specific situation. I mean, I would always come back to it's a circle of friends, peers, the peers you're hanging out with. You do as others do, right? If you're hanging out with others who are using, the pressure is going to be enormous to use because they don't want to use with people who aren't doing that. So it comes around to social choices, and peer choices are huge. And I don't think that's not a brainstorm. It's it's something that's brought out all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and that's something that the parents, I know my parents always preach to me. I'm sure the kids have heard before, but I guess it's a message that we need to keep preaching. You are who you surround yourself with.
And as I've heard before, why do you want to change how you feel, right?
Mm.
Isn't that what it's about? Always changing how you feel. What feeling are you trying to change? Because it's usually can go back to the home, what's going on at home, what's going on in school, what's going on with friends. And kids aren't always willing to talk about their feelings. What are you trying to change? You're taking that first whiff of marijuana. Why do you want, you want to feel a certain way. Why do you want to feel that way? What are you trying to mask? Or an opioid, right? That may be laced with fentanyl. It probably is. What feeling are you trying to get and why?
Yeah.
So they're deep, they're tough conversations, and it's tough information to get out of somebody who's young.
Correct. Correct. I've heard you kind of speak in the past about just the gift of sobriety. I think in trying to get them to see the gift in it, sometimes I feel like the kids I work with, man, they don't know how to live life sober. Like they can't imagine.
I know a lot of
Like
adults who don't know how to live life sober. Yeah, I mean, you get to feel a certain way, and you get to feel that's the only way. And so, why do anything different, right?
yes, sir. Okay, so for my next one is a personal motto question. Like, do you have a mantra or saying that helps you, push through or get through difficult moments?
I go by change the world with acts of kindness.
Words of acting kindness. I love that. I love that. I know one of mine is I'm always trying to be the change that I want to see in the world. So, you know, I'm doing my part, I'm being the change that I want to see. So I kind of put that in
All
my
you can
purpose.
do, your little corner.
Yes, sir. Um, I want to shift to kind of like personal life, a little mental health a little bit as well. So I see you've been married a couple times. You're married now. I'm wondering,
Uh-huh.
like, what are your thoughts about marriage in today's times? And any advice for couples?
Well, my wife and I have been together. We've been through tough times. My wife was with me through rock when I hit rock bottom, and we hadn't been together that long at the time. So, honesty and about struggles, right? Honesty about struggles and not projecting the worst response, especially early in relationships. If you're struggling with something, you're become insecure and you don't want to tell your significant other, your partner, whoever, whatever it is, because you're afraid of the response. And the response is probably going to be, I love you and want to help you, but that's not what your mind plays out.
Yeah.
So the mind can play a lot of tricks. So honesty is, again, not another brainstorm, but in tough times, honesty in tough times, and don't be afraid to get help, right? If you're struggling with that.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of one thing I struggle with. I'm single, young bachelor, I have two kids. But being vulnerable with a woman, I don't know. I feel like that's something I'm scared of. Being
A
able allowing a
lot of
woman to
guys
see
get
me at my
scared.
lowest.
Yeah, a lot of guys. I mean, but that's not unusual,
Yeah.
right?
And
I mean, it doesn't make it easier, but it's not unusual. But it's there are a lot of people now. It's a different time than when I grew up, right?
yeah,
When I mean, I'm a
social
baby.
media.
Well, when being a male was meant strength, meant silence. And different communities, different demographics handle it differently, whether it's the black community or the Hispanic culture or this culture or that culture, you're come up differently. And there are different aspects to that, what it means to be a male,
Yeah.
what it means to be a man. And it's different now than it was when I was, growing up in the 60s.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to get your perspective, just growing up now, like I feel like in my times, social media, the man's meant to be the provider, never struggles, if you struggle, it feel like, your woman for guarantee gonna leave you, if you're
Yeah.
struggling.
I mean, again, I think that's, that is certainly, that can be different demographics view that differently based on culture, right? So I think it's much more acceptable now for the equal partnerships, whether the spouses make this much or that much, or, whether, just being able to share openly. I think it's a much different than it was for me, and maybe even for you.
Yeah.
Uh, Different
Yeah,
world now. And
yeah,
I think acceptable to have, the equal partnership.
even with women empowerment now, women are doing way more, better than they have done in the past financially. Um, and that's something I love to see. That's something I'm seeing a lot more, successful women. I'm seeing a lot more women making a lot more money than men sometimes, So, that's good to see. The women empowerment in 2025. But kind of shifting to kind of personal life, I'm wondering, like, how do you manage the pressures of having a public life while also maintaining personal relationships?
Uh, as I've gotten older, especially in recovery, I used to, there's a little meme out there where, when I was using, you have my friend, I had 100 friends, right? Now my only friend is my cats. So, as in recovery, I really shrunk that list of people. And, my personal relationships really revolve around my wife, my brothers, a few dear friends. And so by doing that, I've cut all the drama out of my life, right? I try to live in a drama free world, and I have, pretty successful in doing that now because I eliminated all the noise, and that's how I manage my personal relationships, right? Uh, I see a counselor once a week to, deal with depression, which I still struggle with. Uh, my wife and I are very homebody-ish. We'll go to Mavs games, we'll go out to dinner, but we are not out on the scene at all. Unless we're having dinner with friends, and that's a big change from me from 20 years ago. So, I manage it by shrinking it and staying true and staying loyal to the people who I truly care about.
Love that. Love that. I'm the same way. I like it's a term us young people like to say is staying out the way. Just I like to stay out the way. I don't know. I kind of get slack for it sometimes. They tell me I need more friends. I need to get out and be more.
Let me tell you something. I go on Facebook, and I've been out of the game now for, going on again, going on 18 years. And I see some of the people that I partied with back then, they're still out doing the exact same thing, and more power to them, right? But remember, these are the people 64. And so there may be some age differences there, but they're still out doing this, going to the exact same things. And for me, that would be just a lonely life doing those things, going out to the same clubs and, this club this week, this club that week, or whatever you do. And I just can't. I just can't. And I have no desire to.
Yes, I'm the same way. I don't know if it,
Stay out of the way. I stay out of the way.
there you go. There you go.
I don't see it. That's what you want to do.
Yes, sir. I'm wondering, you've obviously written 2 books. What's next? Should we expect any
Actually,
more books?
I've written 4. I've written 2 memoir style books and 2 novels.
Okay, I apologize on that.
That's all right.
Anything we should look forward to? Anything
I
in
have
the
a new,
works coming soon?
I'm working on a new novel, so that'll be coming out. And I just speak. I do my public speaking. Starting, after March, I tend to get a lot of offers to speak. I speak at a lot of recovery events, speak at law firms, and I do a lot of traveling speaking. So that's generally what I do. But yeah, I'll have a new novel coming out, probably within the next year.
That's awesome. We'll definitely be on the lookout for that, and we'll definitely add your links to your books here in the website as well. I mean, in the interview as well. Um, as far as like legacy, when you want people, to look back on Brian Cuban's journey, what do you want people to remember most about you?
Uh, you know what? That's an interesting question. People are generally forgotten within 2 generations, after 2 generations, right? Unless like Mark or somebody, right? People are generally forgotten in 2 generations. So I don't care. My legacy is in the present. It's with the people, who, hopefully I've helped on a journey to recovery where they've been able to restore their family, restore their self-worth, and things like that. As far as, legacy when I'm gone, I really don't care.
I don't know. I feel like it's kind of different in today's times. Maybe in the past, but today digitally, just how everything's documented. You've been, very social. You got clips out there all
But
over social
legacy is how
media.
other people view you, right? Because you're going, what do I know? I'll be dead. So yeah, so I really don't care about legacy. If you're gonna just technically, I mean, the law school I went to, their mental health fund is called the Brian Cuban Mental Health Fund. Assuming that stays after I'm dead, that'll be I guess a legacy, right? But yeah, if somebody who might have overdosed has children and those children outlive me, that's a kind of a legacy, right? And so beyond that, what do I care? I'm dead.
I can understand that. Even like when you speak on like you saying, your legacy is now, kind of with the people you help in everyday life,
Heck,
with your
it's in the
public
present.
speaking.
In the present. I forget who the guy is. He talks a lot about science and physics, and I can't think of his name. What's his name?
Neil deGrasse Tyson
Yeah, Neil
something.
Tyson DeGrassi. Yes, Neil Tyson DeGrassi. He has a Instagram video about, if you look at DNA coding, the number of people who could be born versus the number of people who are born is like infinitesimal, right? So you're here against tremendous odds. So the legacy should be the present.
Hey man, I love that. And I think we'll kind of end on that. Once again, I definitely appreciate you taking the time out your busy schedule to sit here and bless our audience. And you have a blessed rest of your day, and everyone subscribe, like this video,